There are two people that are impossible to satisfy: those who seek money and those who seek knowledge. These are the words of Professor Chérif Matta, a generous and inquisitive soul on a perpetual journey to discover the underlying beauty of science. Let's hear more. The first question is, who is Chérif Matta in a nutshell?
Well, I'm a researcher. I'm trained as a theoretical chemist. I'm Egyptian, all Canadian, dual citizenship, but my original citizenship is Egypt.
Okay.
And I've been in Canada for most of my academic life.
All right.
But I still have very strong connection with my country, Egypt, through many visiting and honorary professorships at the university called the Whale City of Science and Technology, which is near Cairo.
Okay.
My research has taken now three main branches. I still do quantum chemistry, but I also do and theoretical biophysics, the connecting line being theory. One of the advantages of being a theorist is that you can poke your nose in the business of everybody else. Being very fortunate to be affiliated with the Academy since 2021, when I was very grateful to have been elected as a fellow of the Academy.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
That's a very comprehensive view into who Chérif Matta is.
Thank you.
What is he passionate about?
Since I was a child, I was passionate about science. I always wanted to be a scientist since I was 6 or 7. Reading crazy. I have an extensive library here at home. Part of it is here, but I have other rooms full of books, and even this, I'm talking to you here from Canada, and I have a permanent library. I have duplicate, sometimes triplicate copies of certain books here and in Egypt. I'm passionate about science and scholarship. I've always had that. The more you dig deeper, the more you discover the underlying beauty in science. It's an ongoing project. There's no end of it. In Arabic, we say something to the effect like there are two people that are impossible to satisfy: those who seek money and those who seek knowledge. You're always digging.
You're always seeking, yeah.
طالب المال وطالب العلم in Arabic.
Okay. I wish I could pronounce it, but I don't want to do it an injustice.
We're very accommodating people.
But it's very nice to hear that you're constantly seeking knowledge. That's something that's quite rare, especially nowadays. How did you get to be the review panel lead? Was there some kind of application process, or how did you get into it?
In all honesty, Louise, I can't remember exactly, but someone very kindly proposed my name, and I accepted because I feel it is a duty of the scientist to act in this kind of panel and review and return part of the favor that the community is doing to us. One of my rules is that if I am invited to referee a paper in a journal and the paper falls into my realm of expertise, in most cases, my default position is accept the review because it is the way to pay back to the community. You would perhaps be surprised to know that the majority of people reject right away. And I feel this is unfair. So when I'm asked, my default position will say yes. But of course, if I'm overwhelmingly busy at that point, then I will decline, but the default position is to accept. So I thank very much whoever nominated me.
That's a very unique perspective amongst reviewers, because a lot of them reject the offers. Obviously, they have their reasons, they may be busy, but it's very encouraging to hear that you accept because you want to give back. That's refreshing. Still on the African Planet Prize, what would you say made this inaugural cycle important, both scientifically and maybe even symbolically?
Symbolically, it's a great advertisement for the quality and excellence of African science, to the extent that we had 2 applications from countries that were not in Africa, which indicates that there was some visibility, but I would rather have the visibility improved. For example, we can try to approach journals like Nature or Science, like major scientific journals, to ask if they can donate is to advertise the next prize in their
Yeah.
journal.
It's good to hear that it provided that symbolic tone to exhibit the scientific excellence of what is in Africa and what we can actually do as Africans to help improve the climate agenda, because it does affect us on a proportionally higher level than other parts of the world. Could you give us a snapshot of the review process and the criteria that really mattered when you were identifying some of these winning proposals?
Okay, first of all, the purpose of this nomination process is to identify transformative planetary research.
Okay.
We try to balance the excellence with the impact and
Mhm.
also to reflect the priority of the African continent.
Mhm.
So it goes a little bit beyond just academic excellence. Of course, academic excellence
Definitely.
is one of the four most important criteria, but it's not the only criteria. We emphasize real world impact.
Yes.
The review panel, we try to be independent and merit based.
Yes.
And we try to ensure transparency and fairness and avoid any conflict of interest. One of the main focuses was confidentiality, of course. In criteria for evaluation, we had scientific excellence represented 40%, societal relevance 30%. We gave it impact and visibility 20%, and capacity building about 10%. How the proposals were evaluated is that we had 3 independent reviewers per proposal. Each member of the panel that was assigned a certain file has to write a justification for the scores and the ranking that they submitted.
Okay.
The panel discussed to harmonize the score and address big discrepancy. We focused on the clarity of the problem, applicability and implementation of the problem, and relevant to African context, but also the potential for scalability. Last but not least is the numbers and metrics of the scientist that was nominated. Numbers alone are not enough. They have to be contextualized. All these bibliographic notes are not enough. The last thing is that when we decided on the last finalist, of course, we have numerical scores, but I prefer to keep the actual scores not public, because scores are numbers. You don't get into a numbers game.
Yes.
It's a number place you in a category kind of thing. But 3 winners have equal merit, each in their own discipline.
You've explained something very complex in very simple terms. And it's very good to hear that you're talking about how the metrics were quantitative just to rank. I think that is quite insightful to realize that each of them was awarded based on their own individual excellence and merit, and that the metrics were just for purposes of facilitating the process. This one is to hear your perspective on some critiques that people tend to give about some of these prizes. How would you respond to critics who say that such prizes mainly serve to establish the legitimacy of the granting bodies and enforce a hero model of science, which then ignores collective community-based solutions? How would you respond to that?
There is no system in the universe I know of that is perfect.
Yeah.
It is very hard. If someone is giving you money, how can you not listen at least to what they are requesting?
Yeah.
There are always strings attached. So for those who would critique that, it's valid, but please propose something. What concrete step can you do in order to engage the end user? It's an important question that you're raising, and it's worth considering seriously, perhaps in the second round of this prize in consultation with the donors.
Yes, every system has its strengths and its weaknesses, but the most important thing that I took from what you said is that, okay, fine, you have your critiques, but propose some solutions, because this is a starting point. It's definitely something that we're also going to take to the donor so that they can have a perspective of what some of the people on the ground might be saying. The last question, do you have any advice for researchers who might be considering to apply for a second cycle or future cycles of the African Planet Prize?
just do your best research without thinking about the prizes. This is the best way to win prizes. Now, for this prize in particular,
Mm-hmm.
I think I laid out a few criteria here: the excellence, the impact,
Yes.
the
Mm-hmm.
African relevance,
Mm-hmm.
and the stability.
Okay. They need to keep working hard and then take into consideration some of the criteria that you outlined when you were talking about the review process. That's really good advice. I really think it's going to open up the application process even more. They have a head start compared to some of the people who took part in the inaugural cycle who had no clue whatsoever about some of these things. So that wraps up the interview in terms of all the questions I wanted to ask you. You've answered them brilliantly. You've given so much depth, but at the same time, you've made everything so simple and easy to understand. And I really thank you for that and
Oh
also
no,
for
it's me
making
that thank you
time.
so much, Louise, for giving me this opportunity and taking the time to talk to me.
So thank you so much.
Well, thank you,
Um,
Louise. I think the Academy is really very fortunate to have you now on board since January. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that.